Hello, I'm Malissa Fritz, host of It Takes a Co-op from CHS. Propane is an important energy source for farmers and ranchers to heat homes and buildings and dry crops, even power equipment. Managing propane supply and price is one element of nearly every operation's risk management. We're talking today with Tyler Kelly, who heads up energy commodity trading for CHS. He will give us a look at what's happening in global and U.S. propane markets and how those changes impact propane supply and strategies for propane contracting going into the fall and winter. Tyler, thank you for joining today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and role here at CHS.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Melissa. Yeah, I've been with CHS a little over 11 years. My career background is all in commodity trading, mostly energy products. And my current role, I get to manage a great team of 6 commodity traders and logistics experts, making sure we've got the amount of propane our customers need all across the country.
So let's talk a little bit about those customers and our farmers, and why do global propane markets really matter to our U.S. farmers?
Propane production in the U.S. has increased for over 15 years on a consistent basis, and we're setting fresh records every year, which is great for the sake of surety of supply and making sure we've got the right amount of propane for our customers. However, the producers of that propane have had to get creative to find new outlets as the domestic consumption of propane has been very, very stable over that time frame. And so over the course of last year, we saw about 2/3 of our domestic U.S. produced propane get exported into countries both near, such as Mexico, Canada, and as far away as South Korea, Japan, and China, as again, those producers need to get more creative and find new outlets for our ever-increasing production. And so as a result, with more and more U.S. propane making its way to global markets, we've seen our pricing and our supply reliability be impacted and influenced by those global factors and those global consumers of U.S. produced propane.
How does your team track those global indicators?
With the advent of AI, BI, I mean, data has never been more accessible than it is today, right? But thanks to a great team of traders and analysts, we're able to ingest a lot of data to turn it into really actionable insights for our customers, for our sales team, to make sure that we're staying ahead of the ever-evolving supply and demand trends taking place across the industry. And so we utilize tools and reports such as vessel tracking reporting to make sure we know how many vessels are getting loaded on a day-to-day basis across all of those export channels, again, that are moving about 2/3 of U.S. propane off the coast and into other countries. We're also looking at the export economics to, again, pay close attention to those international demand factors and supply factors to just try to stay ahead of those evolving trends and make sure if there are challenges coming down that we're staying well ahead and informing our customers of anything that we see.
So much change in just the 10, 11 years you've been here. I've been here 10 years too. So
Sure.
like right around that same time,
Yep.
the amount of AI and Power BI that can help to indicate, it's just amazing,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Very powerful. Yeah.
So we do know propane is certainly something that's used seasonally,
Yes.
oftentimes. And
Yeah.
so talk to me a little bit about how that does impact our supply here in the U.S.
Sure. Yeah. Propane consumption is highly seasonal, as you've mentioned. So across the U.S. in the residential, commercial, even the petrochemical, industrial sectors, there's about 3 times more propane used in the winter months than there is in the summer. But on the supply side, there's virtually no seasonality at all. So the same amount of propane is getting produced at gas plants and refineries across the country in June as it is in January. And so in order to respond to that supply and demand seasonality imbalance, we in the wholesale and retail space heavily invest in storage infrastructure. And so it's very important for us to make sure that we're keeping the propane that our customers will need during the peak fall and winter seasons all season long. And so we've got underground storage caverns as well as bulk storage across many of our wholesale scale retail facilities, pipeline, as well as rail facilities all across the country to ensure that we're able to store the physical product our customers need in time for when they need it.
So as you are preparing for the season and figuring out how much you need to have stored, it's really important that us farmers out there are thinking about contracting and thinking about letting you know what we need for drying or for heating. So what kind of strategies should we be thinking about as we're going into this contracting season?
And it's hard to believe it's already that time of year. But yeah, June and
Time
July
moves
are
fast.
exactly. June and July are really times where you should be hearing from your propane retailer. And the first thing I would encourage everyone out there to do is make sure to get a hold of your marketer and talk through all the contracting options that you have. I think the great place to start is looking back at the last 3 to 5 years of your propane consumption to give yourself a base to plan around, to ensure that, again, you've got the amount of propane that you generally need on contract. And then from there, it's going through all the options, becoming very familiar with the different contracting options that are offered to you, and making sure you match not only the pricing structure that makes sense for your given needs, but most importantly, again, it's that supply surety. So making sure you're set up for a successful and uneventful season when it comes to keep your propane supply.
So as we look at those propane buyers, how do they take the needed steps to make sure they're ready for those peak seasons?
Step one is to make sure, especially this time of year, that you're going through all of your preventative maintenance and safety checks and working with your retailer to make sure that any inspections you may be due for are getting completed, so you don't have any unexpected outages in your propane systems during peak season. Next is to make sure you're going into the fall and busy winter season topped off with inventories full, so that, again, you are as prepared as you can be to then utilize the contracting strategies that you've set forth with your marketer over the course of the season ahead.
So Tyler, as farmers are thinking about their seasons coming up, what should they be thinking about in terms of on-farm storage?
Yeah, so on-farm storage, of course, is really critical. So if we think about grain drying applications, so of course there's grain drying, there's confinement barn heating, there's on-farm heating. But if we think of grain drying, a good rule of thumb is to make sure that you've got enough storage capacity to get through 6 to 10 days worth of peak consumption. So as your grain dryers are really running at max rate, that you're able to keep up with those grain dryers for at least 6 to 10 days. Then if we transition into the heating season, the rule of thumb is about the same. So if you can think of a cold snap in January, how quickly your tanks can start to drain. You want at least 6 to 10 days between required fills to make sure that you can avoid any potential supply disruptions and have your storage right sized on the farm.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, as a cooperative, are doing everything we can to make sure that you always have what you need. But you can do some yourself to make sure you always have what you need as well.
Yep. But exactly. So making sure you're set up well, and then of course communicating with your marketer. The supply chain always functions best when everyone is in as close of communication as possible.
Yeah, great point. One of my favorite things about working at a cooperative and being a cooperative owner and farmer is that it's all about what the farmers need. It's all about what the local co-ops need. And so as we are preparing for yet another busy season, talk to me a little bit about how CHS is uniquely positioned to help meet the needs of these owners.
CHS is certainly uniquely positioned to meet the needs of our owners when it comes to taking care of their propane supply. The first reason is because we have so heavily invested in a network of wholesale scale supply infrastructure with terminals all across the country to make sure that we've got supply positioned, again, where our owners need it when it's needed. And so beyond the terminals that we've built and have proprietary access to, we also, through our network of extensive relationships across the supply chain, have access to about 130 different third-party facilities. Those are connected to pipelines, gas plants, refineries, third-party rail terminals that really give our customers a lot of options to make sure that we can get through not only the slower seasons and the expected, but there's always going to be the unexpected as well. And so through CHS's heavy investment and our size and scale, we're able to make sure that we can make sure our customers have access to not only their first option for supply, but also a plan B, a plan C for when Mother Nature sneaks up on us or some other unknown challenge.
If you plan for the unexpected, it doesn't happen, right? We like to think that way. So yeah. Thank you for your time today. It was really nice to be able to hear about all of the details and things that the team is doing to just ensure that we have what we need. So thanks for the time today.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Melissa.